O eternal and almighty God, from whom all power and wisdom come, we are assembled here before thee to frame such laws as may tend to the welfare and prosperity of our province. Grant, O merciful God, we pray thee, that we may desire only that which is in accordance with thy will, and that we may seek it with wisdom and know it with certainty and accomplish it perfectly for the glory and honor of thy name and for the welfare of all our people. Amen. We acknowledge we are gathered on Treaty 1 territory and that Manitoba is located on the treaty territories and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabe, Dakota, Oete, Dene, Sulene, and Neothog nations. We acknowledge Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are the ancestral lands of the Inuit. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in a spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. Please be seated. Before we get to routine proceedings, there's some special guests up in the gallery I would like to introduce at this point in time. Seated in the speakers gallery is the honorable wife of your speaker, Sharon Lindsay, and her cousin, Sandra McKenzie. Routine proceedings, introduction of bills, committee reports, tabling of reports. The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Honourable Speaker, I'm pleased to table the Nutrient Targets Regulations Report on nutrient levels through 2023 and action underway. Thank you.
Further tabling of reports. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm pleased to table for Manitoba Justice the 21-24 to 24 annual report of the Manitoba Court of Appeal.
Further tablings, ministerial statements. The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today we recognize the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, a day that calls on all of us to reflect on the harmful impacts of racism and recommit ourselves to the ongoing work of building a more just and equitable society. Our government believes in one Manitoba. We believe that all Manitobans of all cultural groups and identities should be safe, celebrated, and have every opportunity to succeed. While members opposite thank Donald Trump for tariffs and celebrate harmful actions that target Indigenous, Black, and racialized communities, on this side of the House, we know that diversity is our strength, and we believe that we are stronger together. As Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism, I have seen firsthand how lifting up communities and sharing values of inclusion make our province better. We also know that racism has very real impacts. Racialized communities experience higher rates of chronic illness, mental health challenges, and barriers to accessing care. Our government is committed to ensuring that all Manitobans have access to the services that they need. There are so many groups in Manitoba that do so much work to address racism. Our government supports these organizations, and we work collaboratively to make a better Manitoba. This day reminds us that addressing racial discriminations demands meaningful action and systemic change. On this day, I encourage all Manitobans to reflect on the role each of us play in eliminating racial discrimination. That may mean engaging in difficult conversations about race and privilege, educating ourselves about the histories and experiences of Indigenous, Black, and racialized communities, or challenging discriminatory attitudes and behaviors when we encounter them. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to the broader work of building a more inclusive and stronger society. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. March 21st is the day of remembrance when police killed 69 people during a peaceful protest against apartheid in Sharpeville, South Africa. Racial discrimination is a practice of treating people differently solely based on their race, ethnic origin, skin color. Racial discrimination does not stop at individual instances. Another way it is manifested is through systematic racism, where the discrimination is built into the foundational institutions of our society. Systematic racism can be subtle and ingrained in our society as normal. Similar to the unfortunate event on March 21st, racial discrimination can be perpetrated by actors in the systems meant to protect, such as our healthcare system and law enforcement. Minority communities such as African, Asian, and our Indigenous communities are continuously disproportionate in poverty and in contact with the law. In April of 2023, the Anti-Racism in Sport campaign was provided by the previous PC government. With the help of community partners, the Anti-Racism in Sport campaign was established. This additional funding brought attention to the racism and discrimination that First Nations, Métis, Inuit, Black, racialized, and religious minority communities in Manitoba face, as well as their contributions to the sports sector. Organizations, notably those led by Indigenous, Francophone, and ethnocultural communities, would be able to innovate and address new demands thanks to this funding. We can perpetuate racism when we don't see the bias it has in our lives and refuse to change and develop. Therefore, we must educate others and ourselves by sharing our understanding of the origins and current forms of racial prejudice with friends, family, and coworkers. We must speak up against incidents of racism or prejudice in our homes, schools, and social situations. We can celebrate diversity, engaging and attending cultural events.
Members' time has expired. And order, please. I'll take this opportunity to remind all members that racism is in language, and suggesting that Indigenous people are our Indigenous people is completely wrong in this day and age. So please don't do it. And I would remind people not to clap when the speaker says things, because it applies to everybody equally. The Honourable Member for Fort Richmond.
Honourable Speaker, I'm honored to rise today to recognize the Canadian Yazidi Association.
Order, please. I have to say member statements first. Member statements. The Honourable Member for Fort Richmond.
Honourable Speaker, I am honored to rise today to recognize the Canadian Yazidi Association, founded in 2014 by Nafia and Jamila in response to the ISIS-led genocide against the Yazidi people in Iraq. They have made outstanding contributions to the Yazidi community in Manitoba and provided critical resettlement services and trauma-informed programs that focus on psychological healing, economic empowerment, and cultural preservation. I have had the privilege of working with various refugee communities over the past 10 years. Many Yazidi families who endured unimaginable trauma have settled in Fort Richmond, such as Baylor Avenue, where they have become part of our vibrant community. I had the privilege of attending the Yazidi New Year and the Eid al-Rojid Azeh Festival in 2024, where I witnessed firsthand the strength and resilience of the Yazidi people. This year, the Yazidi community will celebrate this new year known as Shesma Sor, or Red Wednesday, on April 16th. This sacred occasion symbolizes renewal, the arrival of spring, and the triumph of light over darkness. It commemorates the creation of the universe by Taouse Malak, the peacock angel, a central figure in Yazidism. The New Year is celebrated with vibrant traditions, including decorating homes with red flowers, exchanging dyed eggs symbolizing life, and lighting candles to represent hope and divine blessings. I invite all members to join me in expressing our gratitude for their unwavering commitment that has transformed lives and created a space where survivors feel safe, empowered, and connected. Honorable Speaker, I want to add the names of the following individuals to Hansard: Nafia, Jamila, Asmail, Hassel, Manal, Sarah, Harbia, Fanny, Kasen, and Michelle. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The honourable member for Lakeside.
Honourable Speaker, I rise today to recognize and celebrate the Warren Curling Club on the occasion of its 100th anniversary. This past fall, the club hosted a special bonspiel to commemorate this significant milestone. I was honoured to bring greetings as the MLA, was also delighted to participate in the tournament alongside my family and fellow community members. A particularly memorable moment of the event was the presence of lifelong friend and lifetime honorary member Isla Hagberg. Isla threw the ceremonial first rock, a fitting tribute to her nearly 8 decades of involvement with the club. Isla reflected on many changes that she has seen over the years, from the ice to rules, equipment to technique. Much has changed, but Isla emphasized that one thing has remained constant: the unwavering dedication and enthusiasm of community members in keeping the Warren Curling Club thriving. Curling has been an enduring tradition for many families in this community, spanning multiple generations. As we recognize 100 years since the establishment of the club, it is important to reflect on its deep-rooted connection to Warren. Over the years, countless individuals have participated in junior curling, women's, men's, and mixed leagues, and numerous bonspiels. Many have also served in executive roles, ensuring the continued success of the club. While some members have taken breaks due to other commitments, the love for the sport always finds a way back into their lives. Just this past Tuesday evening, the Warren Ladies League crowned its champions, the men's last night, and this weekend the season will conclude with the Falcons hockey team bonspiel, where community members of all ages will come together once again to celebrate the sport. Colleagues, please join me in congratulating the Warren Curling Club, its past, present executives, board members, volunteers, and curlers on 100 years of promoting one of Manitoba's greatest sports. The club's centennial celebrations not only honor its rich history, but also highlights its ongoing commitment to community engagement and the future of curling. Thank you, and hurry hard.
The honourable member for Elmwood.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. The Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals, MAHCP, led by its president Jason Linklater and his team, has reached an agreement with Shared Health and the Winnipeg, Churchill, and Northern Health Regional Employers Organizations, averting a strike schedule for March 7, 2025, earlier this month. MAHCP represents more than 7,000 allied health professionals in more than 20 regulated health professions, including audiologists, cardiology technologists, diagnostic medical sonographers, medical laboratory assistants and technologists, radiation technologists, occupational therapists, paramedics, physiotherapists, respiratory therapists, and speech-language pathologists. These professionals are indispensable to our healthcare system and work around the clock in a variety of settings. The negotiated settlement between the MAHCP and Shared Health and Winnipeg, Churchill, and Northern Health Region Employers Organizations is another meaningful step in resetting and restoring our healthcare system and more properly aligning wages within our system. Elmwood residents recognize that restoring our healthcare system is very much a work in progress. We have much more work to do. The cracks in our healthcare system did not appear overnight, and they will not disappear overnight. A major step forward with our government's recruitment of 873 net new healthcare workers into Manitoba's public health system. After all, our healthcare system depends on the workers. This important settlement reflects everyone's commitment to the collective bargaining process and more fairness in the system for our workers.
The honourable member for Spruce Woods.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and it's such a pleasure to be able to rise again as the member for Spruce Woods. And you know, our colleagues here on the Conservative side of the House who represent Westman in particular, it is such a privilege for us to work as part of this team, the member for Riding Mountain, the member for Brandon West, the member for Turtle Mountain, and the member for Agassiz. And Westman is such a great region of this province. And you know, the day after the budget, I just wish we had more to rise to talk about that came from yesterday's budget. I'm not sure, in the shortest budget speech in the recent memory from the government side here on the NDP side, didn't mention the region one single time, no mention of Westman, a very brief mention in the speech of 2 recycled schools from the previous progressive Conservative government for the Wheat City, and that's all this government had to offer for Western Manitoba. What a shame. No mention from the infrastructure minister about provincial trunk highways and investment in rural roads, absolutely nothing for Highway 34, Highway 2, and Highway 5 in Spruce Woods constituency that all need major rehabilitation from this government. The finance minister and the infrastructure minister are failing Spruce Woods residents there. No mention for healthcare in rural Manitoba. No mention for the Glenborough Spirit Sands Medical Clinic expansion project. No mention of the Carberry ER, which they announced was open and then closed again. No mention for the Brandon Regional Health Centre expansion. No mention of the Brandon University Medical School. In fact, the president of BU is quoted in the paper as having spoken with the advanced education minister who said, no, we're very supportive of the project, but, it's just about timing because, of course, why would we want to move faster to train more doctors in Manitoba when we've got a medical crisis on our hands? So this government failed, and this party will continue to stand up for Spruce Woods constituents.
Time has expired. The honourable member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today I want to recognize a significant milestone in higher education in Manitoba. 2025 marks Providence University College and Theological Seminary's 100th anniversary year. Since its founding, Providence has been a pillar of academic excellence and leadership development, shaping students who make a difference in our province, across Canada and worldwide. Today we have the Provost, Dr. Nicholas Greco, and his family joining us in the gallery. Providence, rooted in faith, knowledge, integrity, and service, has consistently adapted to the challenges of each era. Through economic hardships, global conflicts, pandemics, and technological advances, it has stayed true to its mission and values, a beacon of learning and resilience. Providence equips students to lead with wisdom and compassion. As Providence celebrates its centennial, we honor the leadership, faculty, staff, and students whose dedication has driven its success. Looking forward to the institution remains committed to expanding its opportunities in education, fieldwork, athletics, and community engagement, ensuring a lasting impact on future generations. As they enter the next century, Providence faces the future with confidence, guided by the same pioneering spirit that defined its first 100 years. May they continue to embody the values of faith, diversity of thought, community, and curiosity as they send graduates into their careers. Alumni now serving in various fields like healthcare, social work, business, and ministry will continue to shape a world that reflects the best of Providence, a legacy since 1925. Please join me in acknowledging this accomplishment.
Oral questions. The honourable member for Roblin.
The very foundation of the NDP's budget yesterday is nearly $1 billion more in higher taxes, hitting Manitoba families and businesses hard. Wow. $292 million more in income taxes, $154 million more in business taxes, $178 million more in retail sales taxes, $182 million more in property taxes, and $81 million more in assorted other taxes. That's $887 million, almost $1 billion more pulled from the pockets of hard-working Manitobans. And that's not all. Bracket creep is back under the NDP. The CTF calls this budget punishing and a stealth tax hike. Why is the NDP hitting Manitobans with nearly $1 billion more in tax hikes during a cost of living
Member's
crisis?
time has expired. Order. The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, yesterday our government was so proud to deliver a budget that benefits Manitobans. Our budget delivered just exceptionally well by the best finance minister in the country. This is a historic investment in building our province, $3.7 billion to build, and bring people together during this really tumultuous time. While members opposite thank Donald Trump for tariffs, on this side of the House, we bring Manitobans and Canadians together, and we're going to build a brighter future.
The Honourable Member for Roblin on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, it's long-standing tradition in this House for the Premier to get up and answer the first two questions. He can't even be bothered to stand up and defend his own budget.
That's right.
Somehow the NDP expects to pull nearly $1 billion more in new taxes from hard-working, middle-class Manitobans in the middle of an affordability crisis and on the brink of a potential recession.
Let him stand up.
Order. I need to be able to hear what's being said, and when you're all screaming and hollering, I can't hear what's being said. So let's tone it down. The Honourable Member for Roblin.
Yesterday, a University of Winnipeg economist called this expectation unrealistic, saying, "Would you take this document to a bank and try to get a loan? I think it would be difficult." The NDP's budget is built on a house of cards.
Yep.
How do they expect to squeeze nearly $1 billion more from Manitobans at a time of economic uncertainty and on the cusp of a trade war with our largest trading partner?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, while our incredible finance minister was doing the work of building this incredible budget for Manitobans, while he was consulting and listening to Manitobans and making sure that we had $3.7 billion to build, what were members opposite doing? They were busy thanking Donald Trump for tariffs. On that side of the House, that very same member was knocking on doors with the member for Fort White saying, "We thank Donald Trump for tariffs." And you can count on us to turn our backs on Canada. On this side of the House, we brought forward a great budget that puts Manitobans first and represents the values of Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Roblin on a final supplementary question.
In the middle of an affordability crisis, the NDP have built a budget centred around taking as much money as possible out of the pockets of Manitobans. Let me remind the minister, unemployment is up, inflation is up, and Manitoba is staring down the barrel of a probable recession. Yesterday, the CFIB reported that small business optimism has plummeted to an all-time low, and more than half of Manitobans are just $200 or less away from being unable to pay their bills. What Manitoba businesses and families need is relief right now, not next year. How can the NDP justify making life even more expensive for Manitobans at a time when so many are struggling to make ends meet?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, the member is wrong. Our budget builds a brighter future for Manitobans, $3.7 billion to put Manitobans to work. Our budget focuses on protecting jobs right here in Manitoba and enhancing them, giving Manitobans more opportunities to be a part of building a stronger economy. The Manitoba Chamber of Commerce had to say this: "We are pleased to see the government's commitment to a reduction in the payroll tax and its focus on eliminating interprovincial trade barriers." The Chamber was pleased that Budget 25 included a commitment to enhance labour mobility, improve credential recognition, and streamline regulations.
Member's time has expired. The Honourable Member for Midland.
Honourable Speaker, what
cloud is this NDP government living on? It is so clear from this budget that they are completely out of touch with the economic realities that Manitobans are facing today. The entire budget hinges off $500 million in additional taxation that the minister says he's forecasting. Yet workers are looking at layoffs, businesses are looking at losing all kinds of supply chain contracts, and instead of supports, this NDP government at this time in society and economic uncertainty are actually facing higher taxes. How does this minister justify forecasting $500 million in extra income tax revenue?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, business leaders love this budget. The Chambers love this budget. Manitobans love this budget. And Honourable Speaker, I have to say, when that member stands up and talks about being out of touch, I wonder if she's really reflecting and looking in the mirror. That member went out yesterday in response and thanks Elon Musk. That member is defending one of the wealthiest people on the planet instead of standing up for Manitobans. Honourable Speaker, the only people who are out of touch are the members on that side of the House. While she stands up for Elon, we stand up for Manitobans.
The Honourable Member for Midland on his supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, when this minister is planning on collecting 9.4% more in personal income taxes and 4.2% more from businesses, other provinces are more realistic in their projections. In New Brunswick, they're forecasting less than 4% for each. In Saskatchewan, 1.3% from business and 0.1% less from individuals. Why does this minister paint a picture of sunny days when the economic reality knows, and Manitobans knows, that we're headed for an economic storm?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, our government recognized, Minister of Finance recognized that the threat of tariffs from Donald Trump are very real, which is why our budget prepares us and positions us to respond as needed and appropriately. Our budget is focused on protecting jobs, putting Manitobans to work, and a historic $3.7 billion investment in making that happen. On that side of the House, what are they doing? What is that member doing? That member is defending and standing up for Elon Musk, one of the wealthiest people in the world, who's directly attacking Canada, who's trying to make life for Manitobans more expensive. We will take no lessons from that member while she stands up for the wrong country.
The Honourable Member for Midland on a final supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, this minister loves to twist words and deflect from the realities that this budget is failing Manitobans, Manitoba families, and Manitoba businesses. This Premier and this minister should be ashamed of their budget. Real leaders have stood up and shared the numbers of what their tariff impacts would be ahead of time, yet this NDP won't even share what the real numbers are in their own budget. In Nova Scotia, we see a budget that looks to the impact of tariffs, collecting 7.8% less in personal income taxes and 10% less from businesses. Yet this minister and this premier seem to paint a rosy, sunny day picture in Manitoba when the economic realities of today do not reflect that. Layoffs, higher taxes, cost of living crisis is what Manitobans are facing. That is the reality of today. Why is this
Member's
minister
time has expired. The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, our government is doing the hard work of standing up for Manitobans, the important work of bringing Manitobans and Canadians together. That's right. That member, what is she saying about what's going on in the world? When our government takes a real step and says, you know what, we're not going to support Elon Musk, what does she say in response? This is a quote, I'm not a fan. What? Honourable Speaker, standing up for Manitobans, standing up for Canadians, and that member says she's not a fan of doing that? She should stand up in her place and explain her position. On this side of the House, we put a great budget forward for Manitobans. We're standing up Canadians, and we will never apologize for doing that.
The Honourable Member for Spruce Woods.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Yesterday's budget 2025, the shortest budget speech in recent Manitoba history, was a complete miss on childcare. Was it even mentioned in the speech? I don't think the words actually came out of the Finance Minister's mouth. A very important industry entirely missed. In fact, Jody Keel from the MCCA confirmed to the Free Press that while he's talking about adding imaginary jobs, all those people are going to need childcare. So where is the commitment to the childcare sector and their workers? Why did this NDP government abandon childcare workers and the childcare sector at a time when Manitobans need it most?
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And before I answer the question, I would also just like to recognize the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. I would like to lift up all of our early childhood educators that do that good work in childcare facilities in our province. And I would like to acknowledge some of the legislation that we introduced earlier in this session to expand our Indigenous framework policy in education beyond just the K-12 system into the early childhood education system. Because we believe that that sort of education on treaties education on the contribution of Indigenous Manitobans should start as early as possible. That is just one of the investments we are making in early childhood education. I cannot wait for the next question from the member opposite.
Time has expired. The Honourable Member for Spruce Woods on a supplementary question.
Well, I'm glad the minister can't wait for the next question because she certainly didn't answer the first one, so let's see if she'll do better this time around. Perhaps early childhood education wasn't mentioned in the budget because buried deep in the budget documents, not in the minister's speech certainly, is a $135 million decrease in the Canada-Manitoba Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Agreement as a result of the annual renegotiation of the Canada-Manitoba Action Plan. Does this government actually believe that the federal Liberals who are desperately handing out cash to try and stay in office are cutting childcare in Manitoba, or is this NDP government just that bad at renegotiating bilateral agreements with the federal government?
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
I know that the member opposite would like to waste this House time campaigning for Pierre Poilievre, Trump's little buddy over there. On this side of the House, what we have been doing is renegotiating a new Canada-wide child care benefit for Manitobans to the tune, Honourable Speaker, of $1.9 billion. That is a 5-year extension that's going to allow Manitoba and our government to keep investing in kids, investing in childcare centres, $1.9 billion that we were able to secure that the former government failed to deliver on. Childcare grew none under their watch. No. On this side of the House, we value the early childhood education system.
Member's time has expired. The Honourable Member for Spruce Woods on a final supplementary question.
Here's the previous government's record on childcare. The first wage grid ever implemented. The first province in the country to sign on to the Canada-wide national plan. The first province in the country to reach the average of $10 a day. 14,000 new spaces created in the province, and the first province to pilot the RTM model for daycares, getting them built faster and getting the facilities out into communities faster than ever done before and faster than was done anywhere else in the country of Canada. I don't have any time for the minister who wants to label me as Trump. Donald Trump has no place in Canada. They have no place calling us the 51st state. Will the minister get back to talking about Manitoba and Manitoba's childcare sector that she and Budget 2025 absolutely failed?
His time has expired. The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors, and Early Childhood Learning.
Honourable Speaker, while on this side of the House we are focused on building one Manitoba, on that side of the House we know that the member for Fort White is thanking Donald Trump for tariffs that is going to make life more expensive here on this side in Manitoba. And while the member from Spruce Woods denies it, the CBC reports that Khan's MLA endorsements come from former Premier. Sorry, what was that?
I would just remind the minister that we can't refer to other members by their name, either their ministerial title or their constituency name. The Honourable Minister of Health, Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. While the member from Spruce Woods denies that he supports the MLA from Fort White, the MLA from Fort White who has thanked Donald Trump, the CBC, in fact, names the member from Spruce Woods as endorsing the member from Fort White. I will table this for the House. On this side of the House, we stand with Manitobans. We stand against Donald Trump's
The Honourable Member for La-Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Infrastructure spending in this year's budget is even more misleading than it was last year. Once again, this government has ignored carryover funding, which has been asked for by industry organizations and adopted by our previous government, meaning that money budgeted was money spent. The details get much more concerning. Under this minister, operating infrastructure capital projects took a 12.7% cut, all while corporate services saw a 195% increase. Could the minister tell us how operating capital projects saw a significant decrease and corporate services were nearly tripled?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Oh, thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I want to thank the member opposite for the question. It seems like they've remembered that transportation and infrastructure matter in this province. It's my first question since last November. So I'm pleased to stand to talk about how we are building this province. And we're building this province through infrastructure. We are investing in highways, we're investing in airports, we're building strategic infrastructure projects across the province. The overall infrastructure budget for transportation infrastructure, for water, for airports, general capital, is a 10% increase from budget 2024. So we are investing more money than has been invested in many years in this department. I will remind
time has expired. The Honourable Member for La-Vérendrye on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, this minister does not need to worry about the amount of questions coming. There's much more to keep this minister accountable. Things like the budget talking about climate resilience. All of us in this chamber saw the devastation of the recent California wildfires, and myself, I've seen the devastation in my hometown. This year's operating budget for emergency management will see a 15.5% cut. Last year, we saw a significant cut in emergency capital, and now we are seeing the cut in operating. This means less money for disaster recovery and less money for emergency preparedness. Honourable Speaker, does this minister not believe in climate change any longer, or how can she justify these cuts?
The Honourable Minister, Transport. Order. Minister, Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I thought we cleared up some confusion around that particular budget line last year, but just to be clear, there are multiple places across the budget, both within Minister Moses's, the Minister.
Order, please. Once again, I must remind members we don't use each other's names. Ministerial title, even though his is quite long. That's the proper way to address members. The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and you have identified my weakness. So I will say the minister responsible for forest fire fighting has substantial investments in that account. I will also point out that in my budget, we have there is a 121% increase for flood mitigation.
Member's time has expired. The Honourable Member for La-Vérendrye on a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and it's great that the minister tried to bring up flood mitigation efforts. The NDP's on-again approach to infrastructure only drives up costs and delays much-needed protection. Last fall, the minister advised in estimates that she had formally requested the federal government to pause environmental assessments for flood relief on the channels of Lake Manitoba and Lake St. Martin, and cut the entire project from the budget. Yesterday, the Minister of Finance said that the projects are a go. So in the span of a few months, we've gone from no project to an approved project? Will the minister table the federal environmental assessment that greenlights this project, or is the assessment about as real as an NDP balanced budget?
The Honourable Minister, Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm really proud of our government's work on progressing the Outlet Channels project. What we saw year after year under the previous government was money entered into the budget and never spent year after year. We saw an extremely underwhelming approach to flooding in this province. We saw a complete lack of consultation and respect for affected First Nations communities, and our government has turned that around. We're working on MOUs, we're working with communities, and we are so pleased to be able to progress this project forward and to enter it in the budget in the year in which the work is happening, not carrying it forward unspent year after year and pretending to be
His time has expired. The Honourable Member for Morden Winkler.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The disappointing NDP budget is spending $4.6 million for the implementation of a drug injection site, plus another $1.3 million for operations. That's almost $6 million. The residents and businesses and other concerned organizations in Point Douglas were not consulted about the proposed location for this drug injection site. Is the $1 million for 1, 2, or 3 more injection sites? Because that's a lot of dollars. Where will they be located, and will the neighborhoods be consulted?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Which, Honourable Speaker, I just want to take a moment to recognize my colleague, my amazing colleague from Housing Addictions and Homelessness, who since assuming that position has gotten to work cleaning up the mess of members opposite. 7.5 years of putting their head in the sand while Manitoba was ravaged with a toxic drug crisis. They put their head in the sand. They had no respect for Manitobans who are struggling with addictions. They acted as if they didn't even exist. Our minister is hard at work ensuring that our government, under her leadership, is saving lives, and that's what we're going to do.
Time is expired. The Honourable Member for Morden Winkler on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, drug injection sites only help 15% of the population around them. The NDP put very little thought into this budget. On page 75, this NDP government is promising to spend, I quote, $1.5 million to expand access to addictions. What does this mean? Exactly how is this minister spending $1.5 to expand access to addictions?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
It's so disappointing that the first opportunity that members have to get up to discuss our budget, it is under the auspices that we are spending too much money on Manitobans that are struggling with addictions. We're spending too much money to save Manitoba lives. I think it is incredibly shameful that the member opposite would get up and question the resources that we're putting in to save lives, to help Manitoba families that are struggling with addictions. This is what Manitobans have asked us to do. This is why they sent us to government. And under the leadership of the minister, we're doing just that.
The Honourable Member for Morden Winkler on a final supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, this government is spending almost $6 million to create a drug injection site, but has only committed $1.5 million to addictions treatment in the city of Winnipeg. Why is this minister spending significantly less money on recovery and treatment? Is this government planning to expand adding more injection sites, or do they want more treatment for people who need help?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Again, it's incredibly disappointing the member opposite getting up and asking a question that is based on the premise that we're spending too much money to support Manitobans that are dealing with addictions. I do want to say one thing that was mentioned in our budget was we're looking forward to our partnership with the Ann Oak Foundation, who is going to be doing phenomenal work offering those supports to Manitoba women that are struggling with addictions. We're on the same page with Ann Oak and Scott Oak and the good work that they're doing. I don't know why members opposite aren't.
The honourable member for Portage-La Prairie.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. The Finance Minister talked in a lot of hypotheticals yesterday when it came to farmers. Farmers are some of the largest businesses in our province, and they're getting ready to plant a crop. The farmers don't need hypotheticals, they need a plan, just like their bankers and suppliers demand. When will this Minister of Agriculture be ready to provide a plan for farmers so they can plant a crop this year?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and I want to thank the MLA for Portage asking an agriculture question that relates to my personal lifestyle, what I did for 40 years of my life, and I don't have to get any questions from that individual that probably never had dirt under his fingernails, as agriculture producers do, and the ones. I want to ensure the agriculture producers that are listening and partaking in this conversation that we're here as government to work with them along with the federal government as we work on Team Canada scenario. You'll see in our budget that has been presented yesterday of the importance of helping out agriculture producers, not only today but into the future.
Member's time has expired. The honourable member for Portage-La Prairie on a supplementary question.
Thank you again, Honourable Speaker, and again, there was no answers given. Our poor farmers, some of the biggest economic drivers, can't get an answer. Honourable Speaker, our Manitoba farmers grow 3.3 million acres of canola, and $100 million is worth $30 per acre. Right now, farmers have lost $180, and the Chinese tariffs haven't taken full effect. When will this Ag Minister start treating the ag industry with the respect it needs and give it some answers?
The Honourable Minister for Agriculture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And let me quote some comments that have been brought forward by a couple of the farm organizations that we continue to communicate regarding challenges that we all face moving forward with tariffs and the Chinese tariffs as well. CAP organization was supporting the increase in funding and loan limits that will help Manitoba farmers and their operations, said CAP President Jill Verwey. These include a $500,000 more for Stability Agriculture SAM program and young farmer rebates increasing to $40,000, accompanying the loan limits to $400,000. Mass direct loans limits are increasing by $5.25 million to $5.75 million, and stalker loan limits will also be increasing from $1 million to $1.4 million.
Time has expired, and the member for La Vérendrye. Order, please. The member for La Vérendrye can stop hollering back and forth across. The honourable member for Portage-La Prairie on a final supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, thanks very much, and again, thanks to the Ag Minister for wanting to put the farmers into more debt. Honourable Speaker, our hog industry is just another example of how much this Ag Minister and government don't understand the impact of agriculture on our economy in Manitoba. What is the government's plan to save jobs in Neepawa, Winnipeg, Brandon, Altona, just to name a few? What are you doing for rural Manitoba?
Order, please. Just remember to address questions through the chair, not ask members directly what you're doing. The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thanks again for the question from the critic from Portage-La Prairie. It's kind of ironic that the critic is going to stand up and try and educate our side of the government about what we're doing wrong. What about the 300% tariff that they put on crown lands when they were in existence, and the young generation of farmers that you chose to pick on them? Do you honestly think that was a worthwhile? And we talk about taking over an idea that comes from the North Dakota state. They chose to go Trump style. We in Manitoba, we in Canada, stick up for agriculture, we stick up for our producers. That is very vital to our economy, not only today, but into the future. And I want to guarantee you, Our budget will help farmers in the long run.
The member's time had expired. Order, please. Order. Order. I would just caution the Minister of Agriculture that he should not be saying, "Do you honestly think something?" Questions should obviously be directed through the chair, not to individual members. No further questions? Oh, sorry. The Honourable Member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm happy to hear that this government recognized the importance of the trade war in yesterday's budget and that they have committed to helping employees, business owners, and industries. Many Manitobans work for US-based companies, most notably retail and restaurant chains. And because of the trade war, more than ever, people are making a moral choice to not support US goods and services. The livelihood of these employees and their families are at risk. How are they to support themselves if laid off, and how will this government help them pivot like they promised businesses?
The Honourable Minister for Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Really appreciate and welcome that question from the member for Tyndall Park. We know that Manitobans and Canadians right now are worried about the economic climate, and that's why our government brought forward, under the leadership of the Minister of Finance, a budget that invests a historic $3.7 billion to build our province. And building our province is really saying that we are making sure Manitobans have jobs, well-paying jobs that can support themselves, their families, and communities. We've taken additional steps as well to make sure that we can support local businesses and, quite frankly, just protect our Manitoba economy. So our government is well positioned to address those threats, while members opposite on that side of the House embrace them.
The Honourable Member for Tyndall Park on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, we need to stand up for employees who are both directly and indirectly impacted by the trade war. This includes everyone from floor factory employees to farmers to those working in human resources and everyone in between. If a Manitoban loses their income because of the trade war, what will this government do to support them directly?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, I thank the member for that really important question. Our government took steps immediately to ensure that local businesses, Manitoba businesses, could defer their resources and ensure they can keep workers on the front lines of their businesses as needed. I want to quote some folks who have made really strong statements in response to our budget. So the Executive Director of Manitoba Building Trades, Tanya Paulson, it's a really good budget, all good things. We've been waiting for a capital spend like this to help people in this area go in and support union jobs. So yeah, we're in a good spot, end quote. Our government is working hard on behalf of all Manitobans to protect jobs and create jobs so we can build a better and brighter future in our province. On that side of the House, they're doing the opposite. They need to join Team Manitoba, join Team Canada.
Time has expired. The Honourable Member for Tyndall Park on a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We have a lot of big industries such as the pork, aerospace, and agriculture industry, as well as many small businesses, whether that be coffee shops, restaurants, or grocery stores, just as examples, that may very much need additional supports from this government due to the trade war. Economic uncertainty affects all of us, and many businesses will be looking for alternatives in terms of supplies and raw materials. What is this government doing interprovincially to build up new suppliers?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, on this side of the House, we happen to have not only the most popular premier in the country, but we have a premier that is really leading the way in working with the other First Ministers and working with the federal government to put the needs of Manitobans first and make sure we're protecting our local economy and our Canadian economy. Whether it's the Manitoba Building Trades Council, Manitoba Federation of Labour, CUPE Manitoba, City of Winnipeg, Agriculture, the Manitoba Pork Producers, Keystone Agriculture, everybody is on board, working together, supporting this great budget because they know our government is investing in bringing Manitobans together, building a better province, and making sure we're protecting our economy. Team Canada, Team Manitoba approach. I encourage all members of this House to join that approach. We are stronger together.
Yes.
The honourable member for Kirkfield Park.
Honourable Speaker, yesterday was a great day for women's health care in Manitoba. After 2 terms of a PC government that cut women's health care, closed the Mature Women's Centre, and fired nurses from the front lines, Budget 2025 is a sharp contrast. Finally, we have a government that isn't afraid to talk about women's health and invests in it unapologetically. This budget is full of investments in women's health. Can the Minister of Health please elaborate on these remarkable investments and how they will make life better for Manitobans?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
I thank my colleague from Kirkfield Park for that great question. We couldn't be prouder of our government's investments in women's health. Given comments made by wannabe leaders of the PC party and attacks on women's health globally, now more than ever is the time we should be firmly on the side of women's health care and put the money behind it to support it. I'm so proud of our finance minister for standing up yesterday and for the first time ever, including the words menopause and perimenopause in a Manitoba budget speech. Those are words that the opposition is afraid to say. They were afraid to say when they were in government for 2 terms. We're adding Plan B to our free birth control program. We're covering hormone replacement therapy medication. We're investing $10 million in the Women's Health Clinic, and we're reopening the Mature Women's Centre.
His time has expired. The honourable member for Swan River.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Since conservation was non-existent in Budget 2025, I'm going to ask a simple question here. In July of 2024, Verdun resident Mo Mizart wrote the Premier regarding the reduction in the moose straw. The Premier couldn't be bothered to answer. The Minister of Economic Development, Investment, Trade and Natural Resources couldn't be bothered to answer. Instead of ignoring Mr. Mizart, perhaps the Minister will respond today. What substantive evidence exists that supports a 75% reduction of moose hunting tags as it pertains to the 4 game hunting areas?
The Honourable Minister, Natural Resources.
Honourable Speaker, it's interesting the member stands up and talks about engagement, because there was absolutely no engagement whatsoever from members opposite when they were in government to Indigenous communities, Manitoba Wildlife Federation, Manitoba Métis Federation, and now they want to stand in their place and talk about conservation and talk about moose straws and talk about the numbers that are there when they do not believe in science whatsoever. We're enhancing moose surveys so we can have accurate figures to actually go out and talk to communities and deal with this issue first and foremost at the front.
The honourable member for Swan River on a supplementary question.
Hey, the Minister continues to avoid answering Mr. Mizart's very valid question. So he has this information in regards to game hunting area 21. Could the Minister provide an explanation as to why this zone was closed?
The Honourable Minister, Natural Resources.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I thank the member for the question because it gives us the opportunity to actually talk about the realistic opportunities to be able to engage communities, to be able to engage the areas and talk about game hunting overall and really get into the science of what this is. And we're not making political decisions like members opposite did, first and foremost, each and every day to please their friends, please their family, and now they talk, I can hear chirping on the side, talking about their friends. So that's all they care about, being able to stand up here and talk about being able to support only what they want to be able to do to further their own personal interests.
The honourable member for Swan River on a final supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, obviously the Minister is getting quite upset by a simple question. Finally, Mr. Mizart asked the Minister what substantive evidence supports that it remains closed. Very simple.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I guess that's the problem with having somebody like Shannon Mark prepare all their questions over there. Brian Pallister banished him to the basement. Heather Stephenson kept him there. And the reason that he's coming out now, because he's totally out of touch with reality and out of touch with the engagement that our government wants to be able to take each and every day. So we're having that engagement with Manitobans across all spectrums, across all aspects of Manitoba, across all game hunting areas of Manitoba, so we can purely come with the science of what this is, and we can make informed decisions. Subject members opposite have no idea what informed decision means.
The honourable member for Midland.
Honourable Speaker, this out-of-touch NDP government is collecting $1 billion more in taxes and revenue, $82 million more in personal income taxes on the backs of Manitoba families, $182 million more in education property taxes on homeowners and small businesses, and that is on top of double-digit increases on education taxes on families. Yet he's still planning on running a $1.9 billion deficit. So I asked the minister, what happens when his wishful thinking and revenue dreams do not come true this year? Will this minister stand up, be honest with Manitobans, and tell us what exactly the deficit will become?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
So negative. So negative, Honourable Speaker. Our finance minister introduced a historic budget. So historic, he's on the front page of so many newspapers being celebrated for investing $3.7 billion to build. He's investing money to make sure women's health care is stronger than ever. Building school after school after school after school after school after school after school in Manitoba. Honourable Speaker, it's a great budget for Manitobans. It's a great budget that brings Canadians together. And on this side of the House, we encourage that side of the House to finally join Team Canada.
Order, please. I would caution the member from Midland about using the term that the minister wasn't being honest. That's getting very close to crossing the line of what's acceptable and what isn't acceptable. So a little more thought into your questions and choosing the right words. And the time for oral questions has expired. Petitions. The honourable member for Portage-La Prairie.
Honourable Speaker, I wish to present the following petition. To the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba, the background of this petition is as follows. Number one, thanks to the investment made under the previous PC provincial government and as part of the Clinical and Preventative Services Plan, construction for the new Neepawa Health Centre is well underway. The facility and surrounding community would greatly benefit from added diagnostic machinery and equipment, but specifically the addition of a CT scanner. Number two, the new hospital is being built east of Neepawa on the north side of the Yellowhead Highway, PTH 16. It will nearly double the size of the existing hospital and will better serve patients from the broader Western Manitoba geographical area. Number three, CT scanners are standard equipment that combine X-ray images from several angles to create detailed three-dimensional models of structures inside the body. They perform critical diagnostic procedures that support the diagnosis and treatment of a wide range of injuries and diseases. And the new equipment will be able to complete these important scans faster with a sharper and clear images. Number four, the average wait times for Manitobans to receive a CT scan is currently 7 weeks, and there are over 14,000 patients on the wait list to receive the diagnostic imaging procedures. Number five, the new CT scanner will reduce these wait times as it would decrease the need for patients to travel long distances, sometimes involving overnight stays to access the care they need. Number six, the new scanner will reduce pressure on emergency response services who would no longer have to transport these patients, opening up appointments in other communities and allowing more people to get care that they need sooner. Number 7, a CT scanner in the Nipawa Health Center will enable further treatment and diagnosis to take place in a community, reducing the wait times for patients in surrounding areas and reducing the burden of travel to other facilities. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the provincial government to support the investment and placement of a CT scanner machine in the Nipawa Health Center in Nipawa, Manitoba. This petition has been signed by Jamie Ellis, Cheryl Unger, and Sherry Mogman, and many, many more Manitobans. Thank you.
Before we continue on with petitions, I just welcome all members to direct their attention to the gallery. We have with us from the Fédération des Aînés de la Francophonie Manitobain, 13 students under the direction of Nadege Tuo, and they are in the constituency of the Honourable Member of St. Boniface. The Honourable Member for Agassiz.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I wish to present the following petition. To the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba, the background to this petition is as follows. Number 1, thanks to the investment made under the previous PC provincial government as part of the Clinical and Preventative Services Plan, construction for the new Nipawa Health Centre is well underway. The facility and surrounding community would greatly benefit from added diagnostic machinery and equipment, but specifically the addition of a CT scanner. Number 2, the new hospital is being built east of Nipawa on the north side of Yellowhead Highway, PTH 16. It will be nearly double the size of the existing hospital. It will better serve patients from its broader Western Manitoba geographic area. Number 3, CT scanners are standard equipment that combine X-ray images from several angles to create detailed, three-dimensional models of structures inside the body. They perform critical diagnostic procedures that support the diagnosis and treatment of a wide range of injuries and diseases, and the new equipment will be able to complete these important scans faster and with sharper and clearer images. Number 4, the average wait times for Manitobans to receive a CT scan is currently 7 weeks, and there are over 14,000 patients on the wait list to receive the diagnostic imaging procedure. Number 5, the new CT scanner will reduce these wait times as it would decrease the need for patients to travel long distances, sometimes involving overnight stays to access the care they need. Number 6, the new scanner will reduce pressure on the emergency response services, who would no longer have to transport these patients, opening up appointments in other communities and allowing more people to get the care they need sooner. Number 7, a CT scanner in the Nipawa Health Centre will enable further treatment and diagnosis to take place in community, reducing the wait times for patients in surrounding areas and allowing more people to get the care they need sooner. A CT scanner in the Nipawa Health Centre will enable further treatment and diagnosis to take place in community, reducing the wait times for patients in surrounding areas and reducing the burden of travel to other facilities. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the provincial government to support the investment and placement of a CT scanner machine in the Neepawa Health Centre in Neepawa, Manitoba. This petition has been signed by Catherine Jasnick, Robert Walker, Jim Saz, and many, many other Manitobans.
The honourable member for Roblin.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I wish to present the following petition. The background to this petition is as follows. Phoenix School, a kindergarten to grade 5 school located in Headingley, has experienced consistent enrollment growth over the last several years. Enrollment is expected to reach 275 students in the next 2 years. Because the school is now over capacity, the school division has had to install portable classrooms on site as of fall 2024. For several consecutive years, the top capital priority of the St. James Assiniboia School Division has been the renovation and expansion of Phoenix School. In 2022, the Phoenix School expansion and renovation project was approved to proceed to the design phase. The project included, among other amenities, a new gymnasium, 2 new classrooms, a multi-purpose room, and room for 74 childcare spaces. In June 2024, the school division received notice from the provincial government that the project has been deferred. There is no guarantee if or when the project will move forward. There are currently hundreds of children on a wait list for childcare in Headingley. The daycare operator in Phoenix School has been told that they will continue to have space within the school for the 2024-2025 school year only, that further expansion of childcare space within the school is not possible, and that space may be reduced moving forward due to the shortage of classrooms. If new space is not constructed as planned, many families may be left without childcare. It is critical that the expansion and renovation of Phoenix School proceed as planned in order to support the needs of students, teachers, and families in the growing community of Headingley. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. To urge the provincial government to proceed with the planned renovation and expansion of Phoenix School without further delay. And this petition is signed by Tracy Gould, Emma Fillion, Joe Fillion, and many, many other Manitobans.
The honourable member for Borderland.
Honourable Speaker, I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. Number 1, illegal border crossings into Manitoba have increased 14% in 2024, raising significant public safety and security concerns, particularly in border communities. Number 2, changes to the Canada-US Safe Third Country Agreement have driven migrants deeper into hiding to avoid apprehension, making law enforcement efforts more difficult. Number 3, Border Patrol officials believe that criminal organizations, including Mexican cartels, are involved in smuggling operations at the border, posing serious security threats to Manitoba. Number 4, human smuggling networks are abandoning vulnerable migrants, including families, in isolated and dangerous locations, exposing them to severe risks, especially during Manitoba's harsh winters. And number 5, border communities are preparing for a possible surge in illegal border crossings, which could overwhelm local resources and emergency search and rescue services. And number 6, despite these challenges, there has been little communication or support from the provincial and federal governments regarding their plans to assist border communities, leaving them under-resourced and unprepared to manage this escalating crisis. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. 1, to urge the provincial government to lobby the federal government to develop and implement a comprehensive plan to assist border communities in managing the rise in illegal border crossings into Manitoba. And 2, to urge the provincial government to work closely with federal and local authorities to ensure adequate resources, including funding and support for emergency services, are available to protect local communities, and that immediate measures be taken to dismantle and destroy all human smuggling networks operating in Manitoba. This petition has been signed by Jody Houle, Sarah Bickert, Mary Reimer, and many, many Manitobans.
The Honourable Member for Morden Winkler.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I wish to present the following petition. To the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. 1. Between 2011 and 2021, Morden's population grew by an impressive 27%, outpacing the national average by 16%, according to Statistics Canada. While growth is welcome and encouraged, Morden has long faced a critical need for infrastructure upgrades to meet current demands and support future development. Morden's wastewater system has operated beyond capacity for years, prompting the province in 2019 to halt property subdivisions due to insufficient winter wastewater storage. As of 2024, after exploring all options, the city announced in July that the estimated cost for critical infrastructure upgrades has risen from $70 million to $88 million to $108 million. 5. These revised estimates leave Morden with a significant funding shortfall of $13 to $33 million. 6. Despite efforts to address the gap, including plans to raise utility fees for residents and businesses, such increases that have been delayed since 2017 due to the lack of approved capital projects, taxation is not enough. 7. The lack of wastewater capacity has severely impacted economic activity and growth in Morden and surrounding communities. Without much needed wastewater infrastructure investments, growth and economic development will be hindered in all of southern Manitoba. We petition the Legislative Assembly as follows. 1. To urge the provincial government to take immediate action and recognize the critical need of this wastewater project for economic growth and environmental sustainability by committing to advocating and working with federal government to close the gap with additional funding for Morden's wastewater treatment system. Number 2, to urge the provincial government to ensure all levels of government and regulatory bodies will expedite necessary funding and approvals necessary to advance the Morden wastewater project with no further delay and ensure no hindrance to growth and economic development for Morden and southern Manitoba. This petition has been signed by Henry Penner, Gordon Hoshin, and Janice Myers, and many other Manitobans.
The Honourable Member for Spruce Woods.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. Number 1, Provincial Trunk Highway 34, PTH 34, is a 2-lane provincial primary highway that runs from the U.S. border where it meets with ND 20 to PTH 16 at the town of Gladstone. Number 2, PTH 34 runs north-south in the south-central region of the province. It is the main highway for the towns of Crystal City, Pilot Mound, and Holland, serving as a main corridor for semi-trailers, farm equipment, daily drivers, and local school bus routes. Number 3, a new bridge is currently being constructed over the Assiniboine River at PTH 34 north of Holland in the RM of Victoria. The bridge serves as an important north-south link over the Assiniboine River between the Trans-Canada Highway and PTH 2. Number 4, the deterioration of PTH 34 has raised major concerns due to its narrow shoulders and numerous deep potholes that pose serious safety risks, considering farmers often need to use the highway to transport heavy equipment. Number 5, construction of a new bridge in accordance with current design codes and the RTAC standard located on PTH 34 crossing the Assiniboine River will support trade and commerce and improve public safety in the area and also accommodate flood events on the Assiniboine River. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the provincial government to address the conditions of Provincial Trunk Highway 34, making the necessary upgrades to RTAC standard, and to resurface the road once the new bridge has been completed. This petition has been signed by Robert Patet, Rachel Clays, Jackie Curtin, and many other fine Manitobans.
The honourable member for Lakeside.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. Number 1, Kelly Verway, a beloved young woman from Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, was tragically killed in a car crash caused by a repeat violent offender with a long criminal history. Number 2, despite repeated violations of his bail conditions, the offender was free to roam the streets and ultimately claim Kelly's life. This tragedy was entirely preventable. Number 3, while the criminal code falls under federal jurisdiction, provinces have been given the responsibility for the administration of justice, allowing for meaningful provincial action on bail reform to ensure public safety. Number 4, other provinces have taken proactive steps to strengthen bail enforcement, but Manitoba has not used all the available tools to address this issue effectively. Number 5, the provincial government has the ability and the responsibility to advocate for and implement measures that protect its citizens by ensuring that repeat violent offenders are not released in our communities without proper safeguards. Number 6, immediate action is required to close gaps in the justice system that allow dangerous criminals to remain free, which puts innocent Manitobans at risk. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. Number 1, to urge the provincial government to take immediate and decisive action on bail reform to address serious deficits in enforcement by utilizing all available provincial mechanisms to strengthen warrant enforcement, increasing bail supervision, and opposing release of offenders, thus ensuring that repeat violent offenders are held accountable and that public safety is prioritized over leniency. And number 2, to urge the provincial government to lobby the federal government to immediately repeal provisions of the criminal code that allow for continued victimization of law-abiding Manitobans while granting repeat offenders additional rights. This petition is signed by Tyson Langro, Stephen Dearman, Juliana Wuda, and many, many Manitobans. Thank you.
The honourable member for La Vérendrye.
Honourable Speaker, I wish to present the following petition. To the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. 1, Provincial Road 210, PR 210, is a 117.3 kilometer or 72.8 mile highway in the Eastman region of Manitoba that connects the towns and communities of Woodridge, Marchand, Le Brocquerie, St. Anne, Landmark, Linden, Ile-des-Chênes, and St. Adolphe. 2. A significant portion of PR 210 also runs through the constituency of La Vérendrye. 3. PR 210 is a significant commuting route for Eastman families and is also notably used by those in the agriculture, tourism, trade, and commerce industries. 4. The condition of PR 210 from Woodridge to Highway 12 is in an unacceptable state of disrepair. 5. The planned pavement upgrade was promised more than 20 years ago when it was constructed with a flat surface suitable for pavement, but has yet to be completed. 6. The condition of PR 210 from Woodridge to Highway 12 is in such bad shape that firefighters, police, and paramedics services are severely delayed when responding to emergencies. 7. The Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, as well as the Premier, have a duty to respond to infrastructure needs identified by rural communities. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. 1. To urge the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure to prioritize the reconstruction of Provincial Road 210. 2. To urge the provincial government to include the stretch of Provincial Road 210 from Woodridge to Highway 12 in its reconstruction plans. This petition has been signed by Kyle Okopik, Julianne Gagnon, and Ingrid Koch.
Honorable Member for Riding Mountain. Honorable Member for Riding Mountain.
Good morning, Acting Honorable Deputy Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. 1. Thanks to the investment made under the previous PC provincial government as part of the Clinical and Preventative Services Plan, construction for the new Neepawa Health Centre is well underway. The facility and surrounding community would greatly benefit from added diagnostic machinery and equipment, but specifically the addition of a CT scanner. 2. The new hospital is being built east of Neepawa on the north side of the Yellowhead Highway, PTH 16. It will be nearly double the size of the existing hospital and will better serve patients from this broader Western Manitoba geographic area. 3. CT scanners are standard equipment that combine X-ray images from several angles to create detailed three-dimensional models of structures inside the body. They perform critical diagnostic procedures that support the diagnosis and treatment of a wide range of injuries and diseases, and the new equipment will be able to complete these important scans faster and with sharper and clearer images. 4. The average wait times for Manitobans to receive a CT scan is currently 7 weeks, and there are over 14,000 patients on the wait list to receive the diagnostic imaging procedure. 5. The new CT scanner will reduce these wait times as it would decrease the need for patients to travel long distances, sometimes involving overnight stays, to access the care they need. 6. The new scanner will reduce pressure on emergency response services who would no longer have to transport these patients, opening up appointments in other communities, and allowing more people to get the care they need sooner. 7, a CT scanner in the Nipawa Health Centre will enable further treatment and diagnosis to take place in community, reducing wait times for patients in surrounding areas and reducing the burden of travel to other facilities. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the provincial government to support the investment and placement of a CT scanner machine in the Nipawa Health Centre in Nipawa, Manitoba. This petition has been signed by Harvey Ebner, Sheila Douglas, Randy Dowd, and many, many more fine Manitobans. Thank you, Honourable Acting Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. These are the reasons for this petition.
Tell us more.
Number 1, persons struggling with mental health as their sole condition may access medical assistance and dying unless Parliament intervenes. 2, suicidality is often a symptom of mental illness, and suicide is the second leading cause of death for Canadians between the age of 10 and 19. Number 3, there have been reports of the unsolicited introduction of medical assistance in dying to non-seeking persons, including Canadian veterans, as a solution for their medical and mental health issues. Number 4, legal and medical experts are deeply concerned that permitting Canadians suffering from depression and other mental illnesses to access euthanasia would undermine suicide prevention efforts and risk normalizing suicide as a solution for those suffering from mental illness. Number 5, the federal government is bound by the charters of rights and freedoms to advance and protect the life, liberty, and security of its citizens. Number 6, Manitobans consider it a priority to ensure that adequate supports are in place for the mental health of all Canadians. Number 7, vulnerable Manitobans must be given suicide prevention counseling instead of suicide assistance. Number 8, the federal government should focus on increasing mental health supports to provinces and improve access to these supports instead of offering medical assistance in dying for those with mental illness. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. Number 1, to urge the provincial government to lobby the federal government to stop the expansion of medical assistance in dying to those for whom mental illness is the sole condition. Number 2, to urge the provincial government to lobby the federal government to protect Canadians struggling with mental illness by facilitating treatment, recovery, and medical assistance in living, not death. This petition has been signed by Latam Avava, Lucia Toth, Carolyn Fasoli, and many other Manitobans.
No further petitions, grievances, orders of the day. So orders of the day, government business in accordance with our rules. The House will now resume debate on the budget motion moved by the Minister of Finance, standing in the name of the Honourable Member for Midland. The honourable member for Midland.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. This NDP government has completely missed the moment and missed the mark on this budget for Manitobans at a time of economic uncertainty and U.S. and China tariffs. This budget seems like an unplanned document that does not reflect the realities of today's economic climate. There are a lot of words, but not a lot of foundation, and certainly no action plan. As is typical with NDP governments, and this one is proving no different, this is a budget of tax, 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 spend, 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 and borrow, borrow, borrow. The NDP have not been taking the economy and cost of living seriously since being elected, and Manitobans are now seeing that reflected in this budget and are now paying the price. Higher taxes, higher deficit, higher spending, higher borrowing at a time when Manitoba families and Manitoba businesses can least afford it. Instead of making the urgent investments needed to support Manitobans facing rising costs of living, U.S. tariffs, China tariffs, they have failed to add any meaningful, long-term tax relief for families and businesses. Unemployment has increased to over 6%. Manitoba is leading the nation in food and housing inflation. We are last in the country for energy, mining, and forestry investment, and we have big declines in our economy, and that was before tariffs and the trade wars took effect. The NDP have been taxing us out of competitiveness, they've been spending beyond their means, and now we're hitting an economic crisis, and the NDP is trying to play catch-up on the backs of Manitobans and Manitoba families. The NDP has put off building the Manitoba economy for 17 months, and now, during a tariff war and economic slowdown, they finally decide to speed things up, but with lofty and unrealistic goals. Expecting Manitobans to spend into the economy while not offering any relief to do so is the NDP sitting on clouds and not facing the economic realities of today. For a budget that is supposedly trying to Trump-proof the economy, this budget fails to deliver and fails to implement any actionable items. There is little to no long-term, meaningful tax relief for Manitoba families who are facing foodflation, job risk, housing affordability, property taxes have skyrocketed, and education taxes have skyrocketed. And this NDP is sitting back and enabling it to happen. They made the decision over a year ago to increase taxes on Manitobans, to increase taxes on businesses, and to ignore growing the economy. And what we're left with is a weak economy heading into a possible economic recession. So what we've seen over the past year, since those poor fiscal decisions were made by the NDP, is families are struggling and stretched. Manitoba has the highest foodflation in the country. Property taxes have skyrocketed, and unemployment has increased, job growth has declined, and Manitoba fell in investment dollars in key sectors like critical minerals. They have had 17 months to try to grow the economy, and they have failed at it. Manitobans are struggling, they are stretched, they don't have any money left in their pockets to give to this NDP government, yet the NDP has decided to take from them anyway. The NDP have shown that they are terrible fiscal managers and did not plan for any future challenges that could arise like we are seeing today. They have in no way supported Manitobans in the way that Manitobans need support right now, today. We're not talking about next year or the year after that, or delays, deferrals, holidays, freezes. We are talking about long-term, meaningful relief for Manitobans who are struggling. They have not supported businesses, and they have skyrocketed the deficit and the debt that Manitobans will be paying for years to come, in addition to $2.3 billion in interest costs going to Bay Street and Wall Street lenders. There is no meaningful long-term affordability measures in this NDP's budget. Affordability is the #1 issue Manitobans are facing. Affordability, cost of living, and the economic uncertainties of China and US tariffs. I have cited and I've tabled polls week after week in this House stating that this has been the #1 issue for Manitobans, yet the NDP has failed to capture that moment. The NDP has had 17 months to make life more affordable for Manitobans, but instead all we have seen are ad hoc, poorly thought out temporary tax policies that do not provide any long-term meaningful relief to Manitoba families and Manitoba businesses, and certainly no business certainty at this uncertain economic time. Yet they still increased their projected deficit in December to $1.3 billion, and now with economic tariffs, possibly $1.9 billion, but yet they're still taxing Manitobans. So where has all this spending gone? And Manitobans are paying the price. They're paying the price today, they're going to be paying the price tomorrow, and they're going to be paying the price for years to come. Affordability, the economy, and jobs are clearly not a priority for this NDP government. The reality is that the NDP continues to tax Manitobans. They continue to tax us out of competitiveness. They are overspending, they have overspent, and now we're headed into an economic recession, and the NDP clearly does not know how to respond, and that is clearly reflected in this year's budget with the lack of thought, the lack of planning, and the lack of recognition of the challenges that are facing us today, as well as the challenges that lie ahead. Not only have they been taxing Manitobans over the past year, but they continue to do so in this budget. It is unacceptable to hike taxes on families and Manitoba businesses today in these uncertain economic times. It is irresponsible to hike taxes on Manitoba families and Manitoba businesses during a trade war. This NDP government is bringing back bracket creep rather than slashing income taxes on Manitobans like they should be doing and that Manitobans desperately need right now. They're actually increasing them to $82 million. The government is raising taxes on Manitobans by not indexing income tax brackets and BPA, basic personal exemptions, by inflation. Inflation is going up, which can put income earners into a higher tax bracket just by receiving the slightest wage increase. Even though prices and costs continue to go up, many taxpayers are going to be paying more in income taxes as a result of this NDP government. Taxpayers, Manitoba families, they're already stretched, their pockets and bank accounts are getting emptier and emptier, and this government, this NDP government, thinks it's okay to keep taking and taking while giving themselves increase in wages. This NDP is completely out of touch with the reality that Manitoba families and Manitoba businesses are facing today. Earlier this week, this minister stood up and committed that this was going to be a, quote, education-focused budget. Yet, double-digit property tax increases across the province in every single school division in the city of Winnipeg. The NDP government failed to plan for the 2025 City of Winnipeg assessment that happens every 2 years while cutting education funding, and as a result, hardworking Winnipeggers and hardworking Manitobans are paying the price as a result of their poor fiscal decisions and their poor fiscal planning. We sounded this alarm a year ago for Manitobans. We drew attention to future assessment increases and property value increases and the result of increasing taxes that this would have on Manitoba families. And we are now seeing this today. This NDP decided not to plan for what these future challenges were. They were ignorant. They were ignorant to what was coming over this next year, and now we're seeing it. Winnipeggers and Manitobans are seeing it as a result of these double-digit education tax increases across the province, and now this minister is enabling it. He's letting it happen. He's sitting back and letting school divisions tax Manitobans at historic rates. The City of Winnipeg Finance Chair has said that he has never seen this high school taxes in his 18 years on council. Mayor Scott Gillingham has said this is historic increases. The NDP is capitalizing on the assessment changes to underfund schools and let the school divisions run rampant with tax hikes so they could avoid accountability and making difficult and hard financial decisions. And families, they're the ones that are paying the price. Manitobans, Winnipeggers, they're the ones paying the price as a result of this NDP's government poor planning and poor fiscal management. The NDP removed the cap on how much school divisions could increase. The cap at 2% protected homeowners, while the former PCs increased education funding to historic levels. By removing this cap, this NDP is hiding from Manitobans. They are hiding from being accountable to the people who elected them and has led and enabled school divisions to hike their taxes by up to 25% at East St. Paul. By allowing school divisions to hike taxes this aggressively, the NDP are adding more homes into paying higher taxes. With an underwhelming $1,600 tax credit, more families will actually be paying more in property taxes as the general assessment takes effect and these double-digit education property taxes get hiked. This tax credit is window dressing for Manitobans and Winnipeggers that are being faced with these double-digit tax increases. So there are going to be many middle-class Manitobans that'll be paying significantly more in education property taxes because this NDP removed the 50% education tax rebate and allowed education taxes to skyrocket to up to 25%. This NDP government is clearly caught between ideology and reality. The reality is that businesses cannot absorb anymore. And with a $1.9 billion deficit, I would have expected a lot more tax relief coming to Manitobans and a lot more tax relief coming to Manitoba businesses. But this is not the case that's reflected in this year's budget. The NDP cannot keep taxing us out of competitiveness. We need to phase out the payroll tax immediately, not next year. This needs to happen today. And quite frankly, Honourable Speaker, it should have happened a year ago if the NDP had kept up with the PC plan to start phasing out the payroll tax. But instead, businesses are left with the economic uncertainty and tax uncertainty of waiting a year, of which this NDP could repeal it anyways, for that payroll, job-killing payroll tax threshold to come into place. This is about Manitoba workers and growing our homegrown businesses. You can't tax economic growth. It doesn't work like that. The NDP have made fake commitments to increase the payroll tax threshold a year from now in 2026, but with tariffs and high costs, some businesses might not even be around by next year. That is what this minister does not get. That is what this NDP does not get. They are delaying and deferring in order to deflect from the realities and the hard fiscal decisions that they need to be making, and they have chosen not to make those decisions. Businesses need the support today, not a year from now, and not 2 years from now. Businesses need tax certainty, and they need to be competitive with other jurisdictions. That is the only way that Manitoba will grow. They had 15 months before Trump's tariffs to support businesses and Manitobans, and they failed to do anything. They chose not to provide that support. They made their choice, and Manitoba businesses are now paying the result of those poor decisions. Unfortunately for Manitobans, this NDP government significantly falls short in standing up for families and businesses at a time when those families and businesses need their support the most. Last year's budget targeted small businesses with higher taxes. The NDP budget removed education property tax rebate for commercial properties. Many small businesses own their property, and this year they had a much higher tax bill. In addition, the NDP is actually in this year's budget taxing small businesses with a PST charge to cloud computing softwares at a time when businesses are actually shifting to modern technology and services to cloud. The NDP is capitalizing on that and actually charging a PST on it. What a ridiculous tax hike, an increase in red tape in the era of modern technology and an economic uncertainty that these small businesses are now going to have to deal with. One of the most disappointing facts about this NDP budget is there is no true economic plan. This budget did fail to capture today's economic reality, and they failed to commit to a straight trade strategy. There is little support for businesses trying to navigate these tariff wars right now. There is no trade strategy, despite the fact that other provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Eastern Canadian provinces, are coming out with theirs. They are making significant investments into a trade strategy and exploring other export markets. And what's this NDP's response? Sit on their hands, not plan, not have a strategy, no action, no implementation, and Manitobans will pay the price. The NDP government has actually said in their budget, labor mobility threatens Manitoba jobs. One of the biggest barriers to interprovincial trade is labor mobility for Manitoba. Premier Houston has put forward legislation to break down those barriers. Smith, Moe, and Ford are following suit with their commitments, but the NDP is actually saying the exact opposite of what this premier is saying to the cameras and to his premier counterparts and fellow premiers. This budget completely falls short on unleashing our economic potential. There is virtually nothing in the budget on energy independence and building our east-west pipelines. Where is that commitment to building pipelines in the province? Where is the commitment to building critical minerals across the country? Where is the commitment to Canadian energy and Canadian energy self-reliance? This is where this NDP is caught between reality and ideology. The reality is we do need pipelines. We need to move Canadian resources. But unfortunately for Manitobans, this NDP government is refusing to put their ideology aside and refuses to stand up for what Canadians need right now. Honourable Speaker, in the lead up to this election, this NDP government promised that they would be on track to balancing the budget and eliminating the deficit in 4 years. How will this even be possible unless the NDP starts taking fiscal responsibility seriously and stop making promises to everyone everywhere and start allowing businesses to flourish without the additional tax burdens? This will be another broken promise that this NDP can add to their list of growing broken promises. They are continuing to tax Manitobans, yet running larger deficits with or without tariffs. An $800 million deficit is the best case scenario for this NDP government. In reality, it could be $1.9 billion. The NDP is putting a significant amount of confidence in extra revenue from economic activity at a time when the economy is actually slowing down. Manitobans are stretched. Cost of living is going up, taxes are going up. This NDP is so out of touch with Manitobans and the economic reality that Manitobans are facing. They're living in the clouds and they're promising a lot as we're entering an economic storm. This new NDP government is much like the former. They tax, they spend, they borrow, and when crisis hits, they try to play catch up, but they do not know how because they have already weakened our economy so much. This budget is a signal of what is to come, and Manitobans will see the consequences of electing this NDP government. This budget suggests they plan to run large deficits, large debt, and deficits, debt, borrowing, and interest costs for many, many years to come, despite federal transfers growing significantly. This budget was not thought out properly. It was not planned. It does not reflect the true economic realities that Manitobans are facing today. If this NDP government was truly in touch with what Manitobans needed, we would have seen tax relief for Manitobans. We would have seen a slash in income taxes. We would have seen the phase out of the job-killing payroll tax. We would have seen relief for Manitoba businesses, but we are not seeing any of that today. They are deferring, they're deflecting, they're hoping Manitoba businesses forget about this promise a year from now. They'll repeal it.
Order.
That's what they'll do, because against their ideology to actually support businesses in their province and make this a tax competitive province to other jurisdictions in Canada. This budget has failed. This NDP government has failed. They failed Manitobans, they failed Manitoba businesses, and they failed Manitoba families. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Order, please. I'd ask members to quit hollering back and forth so that at least one of us can hear what's being said. The honourable member for Seine River.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. You know, I can honestly say that the negative cloud that hangs over this side of the room has not hit me yet, so I'm going to talk in a more positive manner. I'm proud to stand up today to talk about the incredible budget our team has worked so hard to develop for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Budget 2025 focuses on building. We are a party that builds Manitoba. The members opposite, they like to tear it down. Building a resilient and protected Manitoba that can not only withstand the challenges we are facing, but for us to come out stronger. As a listening government, and we really do listen. I was at an event last night for the Manitoba School Board Association, and I couldn't believe how many members came up to thank our government for being collaborative, for listening, for meeting with them. Even a member from this side, his relative came over and thanked us for the work we do. As a listening government, our members have traveled across this province to hear what issues are most important to Manitobans, and we've heard you loud and clear. You care about healthcare, about our economy. You care about creating more Manitoba jobs, having better infrastructure, more schools and daycares. Budget 2025 is built on these commitments and is exactly what Manitobans have been asking for. We're facing uncertain times. Threats of tariffs and trade wars loom over Manitobans every day. But just know that we've got your back and we will get you through this time. This budget should provide comfort for this uncertainty, and Manitobans can rest assured that we have a contingency plan and funds earmarked to mitigate the effects of these tariffs. Our government has been working hard to protect your jobs and safeguard our provincial economy so that you can continue to provide for your families and keep building the good life that you've worked so hard for. Budget 2025 will help us continue to do this with the additional tariff budget. It's important that we support one another as we weather this storm. We are in this together as one Manitoba with one future. As the wife and mother to small business owners and the daughter of a small business owner, supporting local businesses in our province is one of my priorities, and I'm so proud to see the passion reflected in the budget. We're cutting payroll taxes, which will help create more jobs and save businesses $8.5 million annually. We're investing $500,000 into the Export Support Program that will help Manitoba businesses diversify their sales outside of the United States, making them stronger and giving them access to new markets. We're also investing $10 million into a new business security rebate program that will help businesses stay safe in our province, preventing the thefts and break-ins that cost businesses precious dollars. Since being elected, our NDP government has made significant progress in rebuilding healthcare after the PC cuts and mismanagement for 7.5 years. We've hired 1,255 net new healthcare workers, added staff beds, opened minor injury and illness clinics across our province, and we are helping more Manitobans access the quality care they deserve right here in Manitoba. Budget 2025 will build on our efforts to bring care closer to home across Manitoba. We will put shovels in the ground and start the work of rebuilding the Victoria Hospital emergency room that the previous government shuttered, which forced community members to travel halfway across the city to access emergency health care. With this new budget, we are bringing more health care back to South Winnipeg. And as the MLA for Seine River, I know that this is what my constituents have been asking for. Our budget will help us continue the good work we have been doing to reduce emergency and surgical wait times. When the previous government fired hundreds of healthcare workers, wait times surged dramatically, leaving Manitobans in pain and suffering for hours. They created a toxic culture in healthcare where staff were overworked, underpaid, and overwhelmed, and the PCs treated them like they were expendable. Our government values healthcare workers and understands that they are the backbone of our healthcare system. We can't rebuild healthcare in Manitoba without them. We must invest in them and change the culture so that they want to stay and work in our great province. This means paying them fair and decent wages, which our amazing Budget 2025 is allowing us to do. We are setting new records in healthcare investments with a $1.2 billion increase, with nearly 70% of that going directly to our crucial frontline staff. I have elderly parents that are aging in place, and I know how important it is to age with dignity in your own community. The PC government let seniors down time and time again. They made life more expensive and failed to protect those living in care homes during the pandemic due to poor planning. Even now, they continue to let them down. They stalled the Seniors Advocate Act from being passed, a bill that establishes a Seniors Advocate Office that will identify, review, and investigate systemic issues and concerns that face seniors here in our province. Despite their attempts to block this bill, our NDP government got it passed. This year, we're doing even more, investing in new personal care homes and communities, both in Winnipeg and rural areas, including the area of Transcona where my parents live. As a former Indigenous educator, I am thrilled to see we are investing in revitalizing Indigenous languages in our schools and finding ways to integrate land-based learning and knowledge keepers in our classrooms. Many Indigenous children have grown up not learning their ancestral languages or other aspects of their culture because of the structures of colonialism. This is why revitalizing Indigenous languages and culture is so important. When children are immersed in their languages, they engage with their culture and they thrive. We must continue to create opportunities for children to embrace this. Our budget will help us train new language teachers, create Indigenous language revitalization programs, and make other massive strides in the area of Indigenous education, something I am so excited for. Every child deserves to have the best learning environment possible. The previous government chronically underfunded school divisions and let classroom sizes get out of control. As a longtime teacher, I know when the PCs were in power, our school ran out of paper late April. How do you do lessons with kids? How do you photocopy work? How do you give them assignments if you don't have paper? We ran out of paper because we were not properly funded. All teachers in our school had to run out and buy paper just to print for our students. Members opposites are laughing. They think it's funny. I think it's ridiculous, and I still don't understand what they did during their 7.5 years in government. All I can say, it must have been ineptitude for things to get as bad as they did. Students and teachers and parents and families were hurt while the PCs were in power in terms of our education system. We know as a government that we are investing in Manitoba's future when we invest in our children today. We are building 11, that's right, 11 new schools across this province, including 2 new schools in Brandon, to meet the needs of the growing communities who need them the most. These new schools will provide the best learning environment for our young learners. Working families need to feel supported by their government. This is why our NDP government is investing in opening new childcare spaces so that families have more flexible and affordable options that meet their needs. I'm a grandmother. I have 3 grandsons. I have 2 that are under the age of 1. You know, I understand firsthand how difficult it is to find daycare spaces. We're doing our best. We're going to continue opening more spaces, and we're helping lower costs for families with the extension of the $10 a day childcare program to cover school holidays. We've opened over 4,300 childcare spaces and are on track to open 4,600 more since forming government. We've made incredible strides, but in talking with my constituents, I know there's still more to do, and they understand that change and repairing a system that was broken takes time. They appreciate our hard work. I will always be there to support my constituents. They know this. I have wonderful relationships with so many of them. I'm always there to listen, and I know all the colleagues on my side of the chamber do as well. Budget 2025 will allow us to keep expanding on the things that we have already done. We've accomplished so much in our first year of government, and I can't wait to see what we do in the next year as we make progress on the promises we made to Manitobans with this budget. This budget will help us build more than just new capital projects. It will help us build a brighter future for Manitobans everywhere. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The honourable member for Spruce Woods.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and it's a pleasure to get up and put a few words on the record today about yesterday's budget 2025 from the Finance Minister and this Canoe government. I think it's interesting, we went through question period earlier today. Neither the Premier or the Finance Minister bothered to answer any questions about their budget the day after it was delivered. I think that's pretty telling about how the leadership of this budget feels and how proud or lack thereof they are of the budget, that one day after it was delivered, they couldn't even be bothered to answer any questions about it here in the chamber. That's a shame, because Manitobans have a lot of questions about this budget. And I would say, well, members opposite are heckling me. I did actually ask questions about the budget today. Of course, they weren't listening, and neither the Premier or the Minister of Finance bothered to answer them, nor did they answer any of my colleagues' questions. So it's unfortunate. Perhaps the members opposite should listen a little bit more in question period, and they might actually know what topics are being covered here, because they're important questions from Manitobans. Now, we know, of course, that this budget is probably, at least for many experienced colleagues, certainly ones more experienced than me, the shortest budget speech in recent memory. And maybe that's why, the members opposite have so little to say about it, because it is so thin. It is probably the thinnest budget in recent memory. It was certainly the shortest budget speech in recent memory. And I think that speaks to the lack of preparedness of this NDP government. We know they're good at the performative stuff. They certainly are. They get the clips and the zingers and the one-liners. But when it comes down to actually talking about, for example, a looming trade war with Canada's largest trading partner, they don't have a whole lot to say, because they don't have a whole lot of things to offer Manitobans. And that's a problem, because there is a lot of Manitoba's jobs and GDP that is on the line here with our largest trading partner. Members opposite seem to think I'm afraid to say it. The United States of America is Canada's largest trading partner. And yes, President Donald Trump has threatened a trade war with his country's oldest and most closest ally. That is completely unacceptable. We have no interest in supporting that. I condemn it universally. But what we expect is more than just words from the governing party. And that's all they have to offer. They took down the Canadian flag after 4 days because they'd got their press conference and their views. That's as deep as their patriotism goes. And then they got some bad press about it, so they put it back up again. And you know what? I bet you they used the same American-made caution tape to block off the traffic both times to get that flag back up on the building. So that is just a perfect example of how shallow the depth of this government really is. And their budget is no different. They say they've got contingency funding set aside for potential tariffs and their impact. Finance Minister didn't have any more details than that yesterday. That's all he said. Don't worry, I've got contingency funding. Maybe it's $100 million. Then I heard him say in a press conference it's maybe $200 million. We don't even have a clear dollar figure on it. $100 million. My colleague from Portage la Prairie, as our agricultural critic, will tell you, if the ag industry is facing tariffs from both the United States and China, $100 million bucks, 3 days? Is that about all that would last? Maybe. About 3 days that this minister, that's all the planning that he's done to protect the core of Manitoba's economy from a looming trade war. 3 days of financial contingencies in place. That's not very good planning. In fact, that is terrible planning for the future of Manitoba, the backbone of this economy, and our hard-working agricultural sector. We find that completely unacceptable, Honourable Speaker. In addition, our manufacturing sector. I'm not sure if it was mentioned. The Premier or the Finance Minister mentioned he's going to create 18,000 jobs. We don't know where. Didn't know where. No idea how he's going to protect the jobs we have. It's kind of interesting. The Trade Minister and the Finance Minister have been asked numerous times by my colleague from Selkirk and others, where exactly has the Ministry of Trade been looking for new markets for our manufactured steel and other manufacturing products? You know, you can just say, oh, yes, Manitoba first, Canada first, and then you actually have to find someone to buy the products that we make here that are now not going to be able to get into the United States and China and other markets. Minister of Trade can't name a single conversation he's had with another jurisdiction about who is going to buy our products. Has he been speaking to European allies? Are they going to take some of our steel that's produced in Selkirk? No answer. How about other Asian countries, India, etc., South Korea? Are they going to be taking our canola now that China is imposing tariffs on our canola? Has he reached out to counterparts there? No answer. Because this NDP has no plan to actually find investment markets who want to come and invest here, and they have no plan to find new markets for our products. And so that $100 million contingency is going to disappear pretty quick. And after that, this NDP has no idea where they are going to take our products and get them into markets, which is extremely concerning, and Manitobans should be deeply concerned that their jobs are on the line. In addition, the details are extremely vague on timelines, and the tax relief that is announced in this budget won't take effect until 2026. Last I checked, the tariffs are coming on April 2nd. That's less than a week away. So that's going to be impacted now, and you want to give people tax relief a year from now? Well, who knows? They are likely going to be out of business by then, Honourable Speaker. And then what is this NDP government's plan? Well, we don't know, because they've got a couple of days' worth of contingency funds allocated, and then we'll kind of take it from there. Let's just wing it. Not a lot of pre-planning in this budget from the Finance Minister. In addition to some minuscule tax relief proposed in 2026 or 2027 from the Finance Minister for businesses, he's actually increasing taxes on hardworking Manitoba families whose jobs are on the line. Income tax revenues in this budget are projected to increase by $446 million. Who did that projection? When a trade war is imminent and tariffs are imminent, you think Manitobans are going to be making more in income, so therefore you can collect more in income taxes when they're losing their jobs and their businesses are being destroyed by punitive illegal tariffs? No, I don't think so. So this is a fairly lofty, and I would argue questionable prediction from the Finance Minister that for some reason, in spite of an impending recession, trade war, all of a sudden, oh, but don't worry, Manitoba's incomes are still going to go up and they're going to have more money to pay to this NDP government. I think we will believe that when we see it, and I wouldn't hold your breath on that one, Honourable Speaker. In addition, this government's budget is relying on federal transfers continuing to increase by an additional $639 million this year. I doubt it. With the Canadian economy under threat nationally, think there's going to be extra dollars coming from the feds? I don't think so. They're going to have some issues of their own, let me tell you, from President Trump and his illegal tariffs, and they don't have the cash flow to be propping up this NDP government and their bad budgeting practices. And we see how bad that is. I mean, last year they projected just an eensy-weeny, teeny-tiny little $600-700 million deficit last year, which ballooned to $1.3 million. Of course, we know they got it up to $1.2 billion in the first year that they were in office for 6 months after we handed them a $230 million surplus. So we've got a $1.2 billion deficit for the first 6 months they were in office. Then the next 12, we've gone up to another $1.3 billion deficit, and now they're projecting another $700 million surplus. We'll see, Honourable Speaker, at the end of this fiscal year, how many billions of dollars that racks up to be. Of course, as early childhood education critic for the Official Opposition Caucus, I'm pleased that the NDP has stopped their 18-month freeze on our plan to build 9 new schools. Not sure why that took 18 months for them to realize that school divisions had prioritized these schools, not the government. They weren't political decisions where they were located. And if the members opposite feel like they were political, it's strange then that they're building them in the exact same locations that we proposed them. So I think it's clear that they delayed these 9 schools intentionally for political purposes to try and save face and repackage them in today's budget or yesterday's budget so that they can try to claim credit for them, even though they're building them in all the same places that were previously proposed. So listen, it's too bad that these school divisions have had to suffer with larger class sizes for longer under this NDP government, but I will give them credit that they are finally building those 9 PC proposed schools. Thank you very much to the Education Minister and the Finance Minister for building those schools. I'm sure the school divisions and parents and students and teachers will appreciate it. Sadly, no mention of childcare in the budget speech at all. I don't think the words came out of his mouth a single time in the entire budget speech. For a party in the NDP that claims to be about families and children and supporting the ECE sector, couldn't even get a shout out in the budget speech. I mean, it was the shortest speech in recent memory, there's no doubt about that, but half a sentence even, Honourable Speaker, would have been nice. Nope, not from this NDP government, because childcare, just like education, is on the back burner for this government. So, we're looking forward to seeing whether they add some things, some details going forward here. Are they going to support the wage grid? Are they going to build new centres? We know there was an RFP for childcare centres that were approved in 2023. The RFP closed in January. It's now midway through March, no news. Those applicants have no news from that RFP that closed 2.5 months ago about whether the contract to build those centres has been awarded. What are they waiting for? They already delayed it. The approval letters went out in July of 2023. They paused it because, again, the NDP wouldn't want to give the PCs credit for anything, so they're going to repackage them and roll them out. Well, it's been 18 months and 2.5 months since the RFP closed. Hasn't Treasury Board met? They were preparing this budget. They must have been in Treasury Board meetings. Haven't they met? Did the RFP for the childcare centres just not make the cut for those Treasury Board agendas? Where is this Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning on advocating to build childcare spaces in this province? Well, we know she renegotiated the annual action plan as part of the broader Canada-Manitoba, Canada-wide early learning and childcare agreement, and she signed off, because her signature is on the agreement of the action plan, she signed off on a $135 million decrease in the annual action plan. I think that tells you all you need to know about how much of a priority building daycare spaces is for this education minister, and it's not even in the top 10 priorities for her, not to mention the top 5, which is a real shame because, we have no details on these 18,000 jobs that the finance minister said he's going to create, but if he does magically pull them out of his hat and find them, I bet you their parents, a lot of them, bet you those parents, if they're going to work, are going to need childcare. And so, that's right. No mention of new daycare spaces for those 18,000 new jobs, and tying those parents to childcare and their jobs to childcare so that they can participate more fully in our economy. And we're going to need everybody we can get, Honourable Speaker, if this trade war with our largest trading partner does proceed. Honourable Speaker, we've got all kinds of creep here in terms of the provincial government getting into other areas where they don't belong. We've got $5 million to support border security. Well, last time I checked, that's a federal responsibility. And perhaps the argument is being made by the NDP that the federal Liberals have failed on border security. I don't know. But it's interesting that they seem to be buying in to this question mark raised by President Trump that the Canadian border isn't secure. Is that the NDP government following the lead of President Trump and agreeing with his policy positions that our border needs to be secured? Interesting. They seem to accuse us of being big fans of Donald Trump. Can't stand the man. And yet this government is taking policy direction from the Donald Trump White House. Wow. Pretty concerning, I would think, to most Manitobans. Now, I would say it's really quite hypocritical as you go further into the budget. The Green Team will receive an increase of $1.3 million this year. Well, of course, Honourable Speaker, Manitobans have long memories, and they'll remember that last year, in Budget 2024, the NDP cut the program by $5.6 million. And then after public outcry and the gallery being packed with hard-working nonprofit community organizations that provide summertime employment to students through high school and university, they added a meager, the MLA for Kiiwetinoong was the minister at the time, itsy-bitsy little $300,000 increase to his $5.6 million cut, and now he's adding $1.3 million back in this year's budget to try and save face. So we've added $1.6 million back on top of a $5.6 million initial cut. I guess we can only hope that after 2 more budgets, and when this government is defeated, they've got halfway to restoring the funding, and then we'll take it right back up to where it was when we get back into government.
Here, here.
Yes, we will. It's a real shame, Honourable Speaker. And I will just focus a little bit on Western Manitoba, because, you know, we know the members opposite don't have a whole lot of experience out there. There's no doubt about that. And you know what? They repackaged our 2 schools for the Wheat City. We appreciate it. The Brandon School Division needs those school divisions. They never should have been delayed for 18 months for political purposes. I'm glad the member for Brandon East finally got a voice enough at the cabinet table to get these back in the capital plan. Thanks to somebody for listening to him over there. Not sure who that was, but good for them. Couldn't get it in the first budget, so now these schools are 18 months behind, but they'll come eventually. But very sad, you know, we had the Minister for Advanced Education and Training tell the president of BU, he's quoted in the Brandon Sun today as saying, well, the Advanced Education Minister phoned me and said, sorry, there won't be any money in the budget for Brandon University's medical school. And the minister said, no, all of us really support this project, but it's just about prioritizing and the timing of it. Last I checked, we're in a doctor shortage here, Honourable Speaker. The members over there talk about it lots. So why would we want to rush building a medical school in rural Manitoba? That just, by gosh, what a silly idea. Let's just put that on the slow burner at the back of the NDP backbench over there. Let's slow that project right down. That's the Advanced Education Minister's commitment to training doctors in Westman, and Westman residents will not let this government forget that, let me tell you.
You bet.
So, Honourable Speaker, what else did they have to offer for Western Manitoba? Zip, in terms of infrastructure development. Where's the Oak Lake Dam? Nowhere, despite a councillor from the arm of Sifton, which houses Oak Lake, being on the minister's blue ribbon infrastructure panel, didn't even make a mention. No sign of the Oak Lake budget, or the Oak Lake Dam in this budget. No sign of Highway 2 that also runs through that councillor and the chair's constituency in Sifton municipality. Not sure if the infrastructure minister, to be honest, really had much to do with this budget at all. Her department was pretty silent in that speech. Nothing for the Western Manitoba Centennial Auditorium, Honourable Speaker, the premier events venue, a classic historic space in the Wheat City that supports Westman's arts and culture scene. It's a building that's very important to me. This government had nothing to say about the arts and culture scene in Western Manitoba. Absolutely nothing for that facility and nothing for any other facility, nothing for the Odd Theatre in Verdon or anything to do with sports, culture, or heritage in Western Manitoba whatsoever. So once again, with my colleague from Turtle Mountain and with my colleague from Agassiz and my colleague from Riding Mountain and my colleague from Brandon West, we, as the Progressive Conservative Party of Manitoba, will continue to stand up for Westman residents. This NDP government is failing them. They failed them every day since they were elected. They will continue to fail them, and we will stand up for them and get back into government in 2027 and put Westman back on the map to the provincial government of Manitoba. Thank you.
Here, here.
The honourable member for Tuxedo.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And before I get into what I've already prepared, folks who know me know I like to provide information if someone shares they're uncertain or unaware of something. And the member from Spruce Woods was saying that he didn't hear anything about childcare spaces. Well, I do believe 4,600 childcare spaces are planned in our budget 2025. So I did just want to offer that up. 4,600.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. But I am truly grateful to be here and have the opportunity to speak to my very first budget, being an elected member, the new member. Well, I'm not the newest member anymore, but member for Tuxedo. First and foremost, I do want to acknowledge the hard work that the Minister of Finance and his team have done in creating our budget, as well as the tariff budget as well. So they've prepared two budgets, basically. So they've done double the work in preparation for this. So I really want to commend them for the work that they've done, knowing that in these uncertain terms, it is so important that we're creating Plan Bs to keep things stable and moving forward. So I really do commend the work that they've done. So when we talk about stability, that's what leads to a healthy Manitoba. And a healthy Manitoba requires strong healthcare, education, safe communities, secure jobs, affordability, and especially protecting Manitobans from Donald Trump's tariffs. And this budget is grounded in reality, and it's a practical budget. We are building one Manitoba with $3.7 billion in capital projects. This will create jobs, this will keep Manitobans working and get more Manitobans working. This is a budget about building as well as rebuilding. And one of the top priorities of Manitobans, as well as the constituents of Tuxedo, is healthcare. And I want to focus on a few parts in the healthcare section. So with rebuilding healthcare, this involves strategic capacity building. And a few parts of that plan include human resources, capital projects, and decreasing barriers to healthcare. So in the human resources section, some of what we've already achieved in this last year is 1,255 net new healthcare workers in Manitoba. That's 481 nurses, 386 healthcare aides, 183 allied health professionals, 128 doctors, 39 residents, and 28 physician's assistants. So what this is showing us is that we have been attracting many professionals from the various parts within the healthcare system, and they're all essential, and they will play a role in decreasing our wait times, as well as increasing the health outcomes for Manitobans. And there is one important data point that was in the budget that I want to bring special attention to. And it was that the WRHA reported a 45% decrease in mandatory overtime for nurses between October 2023 and October 2024. This is significant. This is a concrete, measurable result that the hard work of the health minister and their team have been doing over the last year. This is a statistic that directly impacts the recruitment and retention of nurses in Manitoba, as well as to Manitoba. We are investing $770 million in new funding to recruit and retain frontline healthcare workers who care for Manitobans. And this will continue to lead to a further decrease in the mandatory overtime. And so what does it mean to decrease mandatory overtime? What is the importance of that? Well, as a nurse who has worked in our healthcare system and has worked lots of overtime, it means better rested nurses. It means clearer thinking. It means safer practice. It means better health outcomes for patients. It means better work-life balance. And it also leads to better job satisfaction and feeling like you have connection to the purpose of what you've been called to do, which are all very, very important in addressing burnout, which we know is one of the biggest challenges for folks who are nurses and other healthcare professionals. And so on that, I do want to just share a little bit of a story. People know I like to share stories. But I'm one of those nurses who, at more than one time in my career,
Order, please. The hour being 12:30, in accordance with our rules, no, that's the wrong speech, I'm sorry. The hour being 12:30, the time this House is adjourned and stands adjourned until 1:30 on Monday. When we return to this, the honorable member for Tuxedo will have 14 minutes remaining.